So, Ben, starting with you on this one, coming off a not so impressive Australian Grand Prix to leave China with no points scored from the Grand Prix, is this the worst start of a season for Ferrari since 2020?
Oh no!
Stephen A. Smith when you need him.
Just wait.
This is incredible, guys. Every time you think they've hit a new low, somehow, some way, they find a way to invent new ways to lose. It's unbelievable. I mean, you had such a lackluster debut in Australia. Probably should. I mean, I don't know if they could have won the race, but with their strategy, looked like they maybe could have snuck a podium out of it. And then they bounce back. Lewis Hamilton wins the sprint. You think everything's good. And then they don't have the pace when it comes time for the main qualifying. And then the race doesn't go their way either. But then it gets even worse because 2 cars are disqualified for 2 different technical issues. It's simply unbelievable, except it's not actually because it's Ferrari. These are the Dallas Cowboys of Formula One. What can go wrong will go wrong. It's been 17 years that we've been having these conversations. All the talent that they've had, Fernando Alonso, Sebastian Vettel, Charles Leclerc, we think he should have a world championship by now, right? He's a tremendous talent. The all-time greatest driver, most successful driver in Formula One history is coming in to try to rescue the team, and they still cannot get out of their own way. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I don't know what else to say. I have no words at this point. It's just unbelievable watching these guys continue to falter, whether it's strategy, disqualification with the technical side of things, unforced errors. That's what this team does. This is who they are. Kobe, you mentioned where they are in the constructors. You want to know some of these names that are ahead of both Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc in the driver's standings right now? Kimi Antonelli, Lewis's replacement. How about Alex Albon? When was the last time Williams was this relevant? Esteban Ocon in the Haas, he finished 5th after the disqualifications. Lance Stroll is 8th in points right now, ahead of Lewis Hamilton in 9th and Charles Leclerc in 10th. Who would have expected that after the first 2 races of the year? That's Ferrari in 2025.
Emily, was that your dog?
Yes, my dog is equally as outraged as Ben, and I first of all, can I just apologize? Not the dog. The dog can voice the opinion, but my facial expressions, I cannot. I'm sorry to Lance Stroll, like nothing against you, but that's just a disaster and devastating that 2 Ferrari drivers are behind Lance Stroll in the Drivers' Championship. I know you said you had no more words, Ben. I don't really have any more to add. I will say I've been part of the Grid Network here for almost a year, and I've kind of secretly, I've not outwardly shared, my fans, what I'm a fan of, just to be completely neutral and equal. But I will say, because I think it's only fair to do so, that I'm a born and raised Ferrari family member. Like my family owned stock when it went public. And so I have to own up to that. This is just completely, I have no words. I think you summed it up better and more eloquently than I can, Ben. I mean, what a disaster. The excitement that we had and the hope, and, Lewis Hamilton in his 2nd race with a brand new team is figuring it out. He's a sprint race winner. Granted, it's not the Grand Prix, but they are putting things together. They're figuring it out. They made incredible progress last year. There was a moment where I and my Ferrari family thought that we were going to get a constructors championship for Ferrari up until the last race in Abu Dhabi. And to go from that to failing 2 completely different technical regulations, which almost is worse if they were both out for the same reason, that I could have swallowed that a little bit better, but for 2 completely different reasons. I saw someone on Twitter or X or whatever we're calling it say that Charles, if he just would have had that water he was trying to warn his race engineer about in Australia in his car, then maybe he would have had the weight regulation.
Oh,
and
man.
That's just kind of what we're at. I'm so sorry. I'm not a race engineer. I'm honest, but wow, just a total clown show.
And it's not like these were anything that gave them a massive advantage that they finished 1-2 with. and then they have the disqualifications. This like pull your ID card out of your wallet. That's the thickness we're talking about. Think of what is it, 1 or 2 kilograms? That's the amount of weight that we're talking about. These are such minor infractions that had probably no bearing on where the cars actually finished on the road, and they still are out of line because you have to draw the line somewhere, and they come away with 0 points to show for it. Unbelievable.
And I'm sorry to cut you off. I was going to come on here and talk about like, wow, how impressive of a drive. I mean, granted, not impressive compared to Piastri, but how impressive of a drive for Charles to maintain pace throughout the race after losing his front wing in the very first turn of the race. And I was prepared to come in and be like, hey, like pretty good day. Finished 5th overall with a damaged race car who's not set up to be doing what it needs to be doing. And for this to happen instead, holy guacamole. We could spend an hour just going around in circles of disbelief. So I'll pass it back to you, Kobe.
Thank you, Emily. And I think we need to make a bet right now. Who wins the championship first? Ferrari with a driver constructors, or the Dallas Cowboys holding the Lombardi Trophy? I have a feeling. I have a feeling we're all going to be in nursing homes by the time that happens, but hopefully not.
Ferrari will. Hey, I'll say this about Ferrari. At least they only have 9 teams to compete against, whereas the Cowboys have 31. But the Cowboys are also coming up on 30 years. It's only been 17 for Ferrari, so maybe it evens out that way.
Well, Ben, they're gonna have 10 more to contend with next year.
That's true, but it's all. But do they really have 10, or is it really just 2 or 3? Right? It's Mercedes and Red Bull and McLaren. Those are their main competitors, right? If they're not, if they can't beat, like this is what we had the discussion in 2020 when you're finishing behind, Renault at the time, now Alpine, or Racing Point / Aston Martin. Like if those teams are beating Ferrari, if Lance Stroll, again, no disrespect, nothing personal. Lance Stroll is ahead of both your drivers in the driver's standings right now. That's completely unacceptable when you're driving for Ferrari.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm thinking of another team that had an unacceptable weekend. I don't know what strategy Racing Bulls was on in the Chinese Grand Prix. I'm still confused as to what they were trying to accomplish there. And I jokingly said that the new team principal there, Laurent Mekies, he came over from Ferrari, so it kind of like he brought the Ferrari strategy department with him, or at least elements of the Ferrari strategy. I don't really understand what they were trying to accomplish